Hello and welcome to my India guide. I am new to the Geoguessr space. I've done YouTube in the past a while ago, but I'm hoping to start posting more videos, whether that be educational or just gameplay of me playing duels. So look forward to that. Anyways, there's a lot to cover in India. This video will never be able to highlight every possible meta that can be found. Instead, my goal is more to just show some of the metas that I've personally found useful and other metas that I personally discovered. I'll link all the resources that I've used in the description. I also highly recommend the videos by Geoguessr Explained and Duskden's India Guide. The Geoguessr Explained one covers more of the Plonk It guide, while Duskden's is a lot of the other metas that you can find out there. I'll link both videos in the description. Now, I just want to note, I'm still learning the country, and like most things, the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know. Therefore, I'll probably forget some stuff or say something incorrectly, so I apologize in advance. I also want to say, if you're out there learning India, there is a lot of stuff that has not been studied, so I highly recommend going out there and trying to find some new metas. So without further ado, India. There are about 4 things that you have to learn when it comes to region guessing India. The main 4 are cars, poles, vegetation, and elevation, and then also you got like structures and infrastructure. And then one last thing. When I was initially learning India, I learned how to region guess before I learned how to differentiate between the states. I highly recommend not doing this. Learn to tell your states apart and then go into learning how to region guess them. So, I'll begin with cars. Personally, I'm not a big fan of car meta, especially because in the future, when India gets more small cam, all this will become pretty much useless unless you get older coverage. With that being said, it's really useful right now. There are 2 main types of cars. You have box cars, and then not box cars. I'll show a map of the boxcar distribution really quick. As you can see, it's most of the northwest states. And using this knowledge of where the boxcar can be found, along with other metas like vegetation and palmyra palms, will allow you to get pretty good guesses. Outside of the boxcar, there are also a lot of like kind of specialty cars, one-off cars. For example, Sikkim, hopefully I pronounced that right, has the notable yellow car. You see, I think the front of the hood, and it's yellow. You also have a lot of other cars, and you can have no car there. One of the other cars you can get is like a white boxy car. I don't associate it as a box car, but it's kind of close. And it will have a yellow circle in the hood. So if you can just remember that yellow means Sikkim, should be pretty easy to remember. There's a lot of cars that have not been studied, so I'm sure you can find more out there. For example, in like Tamil Nadu, Kerala, I'm blanking on names, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, you can get this kind of like Cadillac looking car. You see the back of the car and it's shaped a little weird. I'll show up a picture right now. So remember, that one's in the south. And there are many more cars out there. All right, and then poles. Poles are extremely useful at telling the state or the region. And there are so many of them, and it can get really confusing really fast. There is a great slideshow by Duskren and a couple other people in the Geoguessr community. And then also you have the Plonk It guide, which also highlights some of these polls. So I highly recommend just playing a ton of India over and over and over again and familiarizing yourself with these polls using these sources. I'll go through a couple of them. So in the north, near like Jammu and stuff, you get this pole that has a kind of a V shape underneath. You also get a similar pole sometimes in Himachal Pradesh. There are, triple poles. You could see them in quite a few places. Personally, I see them a lot in Uttarakhand. I've seen them both with the standard kind of curved shape and then also straight bars. There's this one pole. It kind of looks like, I don't know, I call it a toothbrush pole, but it doesn't really look like that. I'll show a picture here. This one you can find in Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, and Maharashtra. And then there's a similar variation that you can find in West Bengal. And speaking of West Bengal, there are a ton of just random poles there. So if it's a pole you don't know, it's likely going to be there. Trident poles are a really good way to get Karnataka. I've seen some kind of like South Africa looking poles in Arunachal Pradesh in the flat part. Another interesting pole that I don't see a lot of people talking about is the one that kind of looks like a Manitoba style pole. You get some of these in like South Africa and Manitoba, where the I want to say the insulators are kind of hanging from above. I personally have only found this pole in Punjab and Haryana, and it's come up a few times. So I want to say that meta is pretty accurate, but just keep a lookout for it. And then there's a bunch of other polls. For example, a really good meta on differentiating between Andhra Pradesh and Telangana is looking at the bar at the top. If the bar is at the very top and it's the pole with the two divots, then you're likely to be in Telangana. Whilst if the bar is a little bit down and you can see that top exposed, it's more likely Andhra Pradesh. But even if you don't have the divots out of the pole, you could still use this, because if the bar is at the top of the pole, it is only supposed to be primarily Telangana, Maharashtra, and Rajasthan, and something pretty easy to see. I will also note that in the Northeast, if the bar is on top or kind of below the main part of the pole, it's a great sign of Tripura. And for the Northeast in general, it's pretty easy to distinguish based on nature and elevation, which is what I'll get into next. Alrighty, now within India, with the nature, there are a lot of things you can look for. For example, pines, which I'm horrible at distinguishing, but there are great guides for those. What I found more useful, though, is palms. There is a great palm distribution map that I'll show on the screen now. This map is also by Duskron, and it gives you a lot of good information. So one of the most important palms, I feel, are the Palmyra palms. They look like this, and they are primarily found in the eastern side of the country, especially in Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, and then also Bihar. But you can really find them in the whole east, and then there's a little pocket near like kind of southern Gujarat and northern Maharashtra. And those two states often have boxcars. So this is one of the instances where if you have a boxcar and you see a Palmyra palm, you know you're probably going to be in this area. Some other palms, you have the coconut palms, which of course are mostly the coastal area. The areca palms are a really good hint for the northeast and then also the southwest along the coast. You also sometimes get these, I believe, on the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Date palms are obviously found in the center here in this main area. Okay, so once you learn these palm distributions, you should be able to at least narrow it down a little bit. Now, elevation. There is a ton of stuff I can go over with elevation. I'm just going to highlight some of the mountains you need to be aware of. You got the Western Ghats and the Eastern Ghats. You have the mountains in Rajasthan, primarily between like Mount Abu, and there's kind of range that runs northeast. You have mountains in Uttarakhand that are pretty distinct because they're very dry and lack trees. You get mountains in Himachal Pradesh, but there isn't much coverage, and you kind of just get a vibe for it. Same thing with Jammu. A lot of the mountains you'll get are in the northeast, primarily Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh, and Mizoram. Again, they all kind of look distinct. You can get a vibe for it. Mizoram tends to have sharper mountains. You often get prayer flags in Sikkim, and yeah, a bunch of other metas like that. You get mountains in southern Bihar, and a couple other ones. I just recommend looking at an elevation map and just learning where these ranges are. Okay, now back to vegetation. One of my favorite plants in India is the rooster tree, or the Rajasthan plant. I spent some time in Saudi Arabia, and I saw a lot of these, and I thought they were really cool. And yeah, you see them all across India, but primarily in Rajasthan. And then one of the best things for guessing India is agriculture. I found a lovely site by the U.S. Department of Agriculture where you're able to like go through all these crops and it'll give you distribution maps. So make sure to check that out. It'll be in the description. Another thing that can be useful in India is learning your different types of soil. Here's a nice soil map I've been referring to. I don't know how accurate it is, and I'm really bad at identifying soil, but if you can do it, good job. Okay, so now on to some architecture stuff. One thing to learn is your different kind of roof tiles. There are two primary types. You got your U tiles and your W tiles. There's also a lot of specific tiles you get in smaller regions. For example, there's this one flat tile we get in Madhya Pradesh and the famous West Bengal tile. There's also a couple other random ones that are in some of the documents. Also, a lot of times the colors painted on the houses are kind of regional. For example, like there's this blue shade that you often get in like Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, and Madhya Pradesh. Odisha has a very notable color, I'll show here. Also, if you know your roofs in Bangladesh, your east versus west roofs, that can still apply in India. There's also a very distinct architectural style for the northeast in India. Also, there is another distinct style that you can often find in like Jammu and Punjab. All right, and now onto some other infrastructure stuff. I really enjoyed studying the northeast and kind of the northwest, pretty much all the mountain states. And so, for example, one of those states that I really studied a lot was Meghalaya. within Meghalaya, there is a lot of ways to distinguish kind of what areas, what roads you're on. For example, I noticed on the roads, there's a couple different variations of little reflectors. You have reflectors on the inside of the outer lines that you could see here in this map in green. You have like reflectors that are found on top of the line, so not inside nor out, that you can see in red, and then outer reflectors in orange, where you can see the reflectors on the outside of the line. It's pretty well distributed, especially those reflectors on the line. And then also you have a lot of outer yellow lines here in Meghalaya. Another great meta that I discovered was the main road, I believe it was the 13, running through Arunachal Pradesh, is like the only road in the mountains that has a reflectors down the middle, like in the middle of the road. So if you see that road and it's mountainous, it's often always this main road in Arunachal Pradesh, and since it runs through the entire country, it shows up quite a lot. Pairing this with other bollard metas, you would be able to get a very good guess. And there's some other metas in Arunachal Pradesh that I discovered. For example, outer yellow lines. There is a main road, I think it's the 15, that has a lot of outer yellow lines, but it's kind of flat. But if you are in the mountains and you have these lines, you're likely on the road between Alo and Machuca, but like only the southern half up until Payum. And then another road with yellow outlines can be found between like Charduar and Elephant Flat in this southern region. A lot of the metas that I discovered and found will be in the document below titled Deep Dive Notes, and I'll likely keep adding on to it as I study India more, which is what I plan to do. And a lot of it might be wrong, so take it with a grain of salt. This is my first time doing this, and in the future when I do more videos covering countries, I plan to organize the docs a little better, maybe include map links and pictures. So my apologies if it's a little rough. Anyway, so I highly recommend you all learn this country. Don't let the shit cam scare you away, and hopefully the newer small cam will bring more eyes to this country, because it's beautiful, and the more I look into it, the more I enjoy it. And there's some really cool places that have yet to be highlighted and explored. So good luck with your studies. I may redo this video later when I learn more about it and I look back at it and think how bad it is. But yeah, I wish you all luck. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them in the comments. And let me know what country you want next. I'm going to try to do this more consistently and start posting more. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'm looking forward to hearing all of your feedback. So thank you for watching and good luck. Adios.